Folks, welcome to a quick video on UNH stock. It's trending on Twitter. Lots of commentary out there, some good, some bad, some worthy of discussion. And I'm not knocking anybody, to be honest with you. A couple of them I've seen. I'm not in the business of knocking people online. It's just not what I'm going to do. I try to keep it positive. I've chosen this one uh, tweet because I don't argue with the chart per se. Some of the commentary here, I don't know. This is hyperbolic. 600 plus coming next year on UNH. I think that's really hyperbolic. So I don't agree with that at all. But I have opinions on UNH. I've done a series of videos on them. My first one nailed it accurately where we had that big rally. We owned it. I sold half of my position right above 300, and we began reestablishing a position. And I'll be honest with you, I think that UNH stock is probably going to go lower. Now, some of you out there may be saying, God darn, it's not what I want to hear because I've been buying up a lot of this stock. And my argument to you would be this is that if you're worried right now that UNH stock continues to decline, you need to ask yourself, do I own too much? Your attitude right now really should be that I view any further pullback on UNH stock as an opportunity to add more. Why? It's because the stock is very, very cheap. The entire sector is cheap. We are at historical support levels. Go over the chart on TrendSpider in a moment. 35% discount code, link below on YouTube, link above on Facebook, Twitter. And by the way, we're going live 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight to go over the opening futures action. So we do that every Sunday night. So please join us. Hit that notification bell when we go live. And by the way, again below, sorry to get off track here, the markets came under pressure last week, and I put out a graphic. It's linked below. It's free. All the support levels on the QQQ, which we are short of, and we had a great day on Friday. Back to UNH. So I think again that you should be viewing any pullback here on UNH as an opportunity. And you also need to be able to answer like that. Am I a long-term investor or am I a short-term trader? Because that should determine how big your position is going to be and at what support level you plan on buying aggressively and at what resistance level you plan on getting out. Now, if you're an investor, you don't know what that resistance level is going to be quite yet because you're looking out 5, 10 years perhaps. If you're a short-term trader, then you had better darned well know before you get into the trade where you're expecting resistance above. Is it the declining 20-day moving average, the declining 20-week moving average? Is it a resistance level? You need to know that off the bat. Now, $600 in 1 year that's ridiculous to expect that out of UNH. I really don't care what Meta did back in 2022. Meta is a growth stock. UNH is not a growth stock. It is a staple. It is a dividend payer. Will there be a V-shaped recovery? For a trade, you'll get a V-shape and then you're going to get a higher low. Right? So I have zero expectation that we're going to have a V-shaped recovery here and move on to new all-time highs. Why? It's because the restructuring has only just begun. They have the chairman who took over the CEO role again. They're getting a new CFO. CFO is an extremely important role in a corporation. They need to right size operations and they need to plan on raising rates. That, my friends, is going to be the catalyst for the next move up on UNH. Any rumor of them taking rate, that's the industry term, taking rate. Any rumor of them taking rate, they're going to send the stock up a lot higher. 600? No, I don't think so. Now, looking at this chart here, it's very dangerous to use just a daily chart, especially with a stock that you're betting to go on to new all-time record highs. I would argue that I think that his support levels here are not that far off. I think he's in the ballpark. We'll check it out on TrendSpider in a moment. But I think it's very dangerous if you're an investor to be using a daily chart. I think that you need to be using a weekly and monthly chart. And even if you're a swing trader, you should be validating support levels on not just the daily chart, but most importantly, weekly and monthly charts. That way, you know you have a long history of support below. A daily chart support level is only going to show you perhaps, you know, support level going back a year or two. What makes it valuable going to a weekly and a monthly chart? You're looking at multiple support levels going back 20, 30 years. So these monthly observations are far more important than daily observations. You use your daily support levels as uh, entry levels at which to get long after validating where support levels are on a weekly and monthly time frame. They need to sync up. So let's talk about the chart here for a moment. And I want to first go to, and there was a tweet out there where he was the writer, and it wasn't this gentleman here, it was somebody else, where they were saying, let's sync up, let's take a look at the XLV, which to define how the industry is doing. Well, the problem with that is that UNH is not in the HLV. That is for pharmaceuticals. What you need to be looking at is the IHF. That is the ETF that you should be looking at. And what it's telling us here, this is a daily chart. Let's go to the monthly chart. Let's take that higher level view. And what this chart is telling us is that we have support on the IHF at around 39.54. Bullish. We're not that far away. So the probability of this monthly support level holding rather than a daily support level that may or may not be, let's check and see if there is, between that monthly support level, this is the monthly support level right here. So I think that you're going to see a bounce on the IHF probably this week. There are two issues here that I have with the IHF. And one is that you could see here that the short volume, this is not short interest, big difference. Short volume. Short volume is still moving up higher. You also have selling pressure. Again, this is a daily chart. Selling pressure on Friday was very, very high. So that tells you still have some institutional distribution and you have short sellers that are driving the stock down. Now, here's the beautiful part. Is that from my experience in the past, especially trading extreme oversold stocks, is that you could have very, very high short interest in the stock and you could be at major historical support and they don't book profits. They just sit there. And rather than identifying where it's best to book your profits and get out before you have your face ripped off in a short covering rally, well, they just decide that they're going to hold on. And that's my bread and butter is buying when they're still short and asleep at the wheel, and then enjoying that short covering rally, much as what we did with UNH a couple of months ago. So what we're looking for right now is a double bottom setup or perhaps an undercut double bottom on the UNH. Let's go to that chart in a moment. So we conclude before we leave IAH that, excuse me, IHF, I apologize, is that it does have more downside to go. Not a big deal. We know exactly going into the new trading week where our support levels are on the ETF, and it's important to know that. Now, looking at UNH, here's the daily chart. The daily chart is telling us, hey, man, we're going lower. No doubt about it. We are going lower. We hit these upper bands of resistance, rejection, 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 and Friday continuation breakdown. Now we need to pause here and add a new factor into the weakness at UNH, and that is the weakness that we saw last week on the S&P 500. We saw a bearish reversal bar. We're going to be talking a lot about the price action from last week tonight on Sunday Night Futures Live, so join in. So now you have market weakness adding to the selling pressure on UNH. Folks, you need to view this through the lens of opportunity. If people are going to get emotional and dump their shares at a steep discount relative to price to book, price to earnings, price to sales, okay. Even though insiders are buying UNH stock, they want to dump the shares. Okay, I'll wait for historical support and I will buy more shares for the long term. Now, going back to UNH stock, let's talk about the short interest volume is rising yet again. We can take a look at a weekly chart and take note of while the daily chart is not showing, this is the value of multi-time frame analysis, folks. While the daily chart is not showing historical support below, the automated trend lines here, click of a button, are showing that we bounced off of a major support level last week. So what could happen here is that if we gap up next week and fail to put in a new weekly lower low this week, next week, following week, it has to be a series of several weeks because the key to buying a stock aggressively that has been really beaten up is that it must qualify. It must qualify to perform act number one. Act number one is to stop going down and ideally at a key support level. We have that here on UNH. So if we make new weekly lower lows next week, then what we're going to be talking about by Wednesday, Thursday, when I talk about market wrap with members, is if we're trading down below 231 per share, I'm not going to be buying any more until I see that we reverse on the week to close back above 231 per share. I should say, let's make that 234 per share. I want to see a reversal week. I want to see the shares trade down and then reverse to close up and above key support. That would have me optimistic that we are seeing a bottom here on UNH. So one of two things, bullish reversal bar to close up on the week or a gap up. And we have an inside week indicating that, by and large, the selling is done. I don't get that vibe yet. I honestly don't get that vibe. It could happen. And volume last week, again, it was very, very high. Short selling on a weekly time frame is very high as well. Now, what if we fail to hold weekly support? Well, we take a look at the monthly chart. And here is a very powerful support level on UNH. Unfortunately, it's down here at around 182 per share. And the last time we saw the support level was back here, all the way back in November of 2016. Now, we do have some support levels here at 211, here at 225. What I just did is I went back to the weekly chart and overlaid, let's get rid of the volume. I've overlaid on this chart both weekly support in solid line and in dash line. And in dash line, you have monthly support levels as well. So I think the ideal situation here for UNH is that it needs a washout. While I would be optimistic that a gap up and an inside week, again, meaning no new high, no new low, could be the bottom, but it could be the beginning of a bear flag setup. So I wouldn't be overly aggressive on an inside week. What would have me far more bullish in buying aggressively is if they sold UNH off hard. I mean, flushed out everyone. And you had buyers step in either at this 226 mark or down here 212 around there. I see a reversal off of those support levels. I'm a very, very aggressive buyer of UNH, but for the long term. And in fact, I was talking about this with members on the weekend commentary, the strategy session, that I may be looking at putting on a long-term leap position, an options position, because we're still talking about a stock that's going to be well above $200 per share. Yes, it pays a dividend, but if I want to build a large position, I'll own the common, but I also have it leveraged with an options position as well. Just be careful. Do a little bit of research here. The IV percentile, the IV rank on the options is quite expensive. So make sure that you're using an IV calculator. Fidelity has one to make sure that your longer term options going out, year, 2 years, whatever, uh, the IV rank on those options are not very expensive. The short term options are very expensive, Joe. So just be careful. I would not buy short term options here on UNH. And that's it, folks. Don't forget 35% off of Trend link below on YouTube, link above on Facebook and Twitter. Also, don't forget we're going live 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. We're going to talk about the opening futures market and the reaction to whatever headlines came out over the weekend. And I think China banned all cryptocurrencies. We'll watch the crypto market and hopefully I'll see you there. Everybody have an awesome remainder of your Sunday. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Be well.